In the 90s, PT period didn't begin in school. It began at home, before sunrise, before breakfast, before the streets even opened their eyes. Somewhere inside a small, middle-class Indian house, an old alarm clock rattled beside a steel tumbler. A sleepy hand searched through the darkness to silence it before anyone else woke up. Above the room, the ceiling fan creaked slowly in circles. Not fast enough to cool the heat, not quiet enough to disappear. Near the window grill, white PT shorts hung silently from the clothes rope, waiting. Almost every child feared that white uniform more than exams. In the bathroom corner, mothers became magicians every PT morning. Old canvas shoes were scrubbed with chalk powder. Dirty socks were washed again and again. Loose laces were tied tightly. Because every mother knew one thing. PT Sir noticed everything. A muddy shoe, a dirty sock, an untucked shirt, bitten nails, a missing belt. Nothing escaped his eyes. Under yellow tube lights, coconut oil glistened on neatly combed hair. Fathers folded newspapers silently and pointed toward wall clocks without saying much. That one gesture meant only one thing. Hurry up. Steam rose from hot idlis in steel plates, while school belts lay forgotten on plastic chairs. Tea burned tiny mouths, while nervous eyes kept staring toward drying PT uniforms hanging near the kitchen. The socks were always slightly damp, cold, sticky, uncomfortable. Outside, the colony slowly woke up. Bicycle bells rang through narrow lanes. Children shouted from downstairs. Someone called another child's name from the gate. A school van honked impatiently from the road. Inside the house, panic had already started. Half-zipped school bags spilled compass boxes across mosaic floors. Shoelaces refused to tighten properly. Water bottles leaked beside steel lunchboxes, and somehow every PT morning smelled exactly the same. Shoe polish, incense smoke, warm tea, sweat, and fear. One child hopped on one leg while tying shoelaces. Another searched desperately for missing socks. Younger siblings secretly ruined spotless white shorts with sticky fingers. And near the school gate, every child asked the same question. Aaj PT hai kya? Even though they already knew the answer. Dust rose behind speeding bicycles under pale morning sunlight. Children in oversized white uniforms rushed through narrow gully shortcuts, trying to reach assembly before the drum started. One sock slipped inside a shoe. Someone's belt came loose. Someone forgot the PT cap. But nobody stopped running, because the assembly ground was worse than the journey. The moment children entered school, the atmosphere changed. The hot concrete ground, the crooked assembly lines, the dust sticking to sweaty necks, the sound of teachers shouting from far away. Children hurriedly tucked shirts inside shorts while pretending everything was under control. Then suddenly, silence. Not because the principal arrived, because PT Sir did. Every child remembered his shoes first. Those spotless white shoes appearing slowly from behind the staff room corridor. Even before his face became visible, fear spread through the entire line. One boy quickly rubbed muddy shoes against dry grass. Another fixed his collar. Someone hid bitten nails inside clenched fists. Under the harsh sunlight, PT Sir's sunglasses reflected rows of terrified children standing absolutely still. "Line se digaro," the voice echoed across the ground, and immediately everyone remembered discipline. The inspection felt longer than prayer itself. Tiny chalk marks glowed on uniforms under sunlight. Sweat rolled slowly from foreheads. Rexona powder mixed with heat in the crowded front rows. One nervous gulp moved down a skinny throat. PT Sir lifted one muddy shoe using only 2 fingers. Like disappointment itself had weight. Nearby children stared forward, pretending not to notice. Even the crows sounded louder during assembly silence. One polished shoe reflected sunlight proudly. Another child secretly rubbed shoes together behind the line, hoping the dust would disappear. "Nails the cow." Slowly, hands stretched forward. Some children hid bitten nails. Some secretly bit them even more behind another student's back. Then the whistle blew. Pigeons exploded from the terrace. Children flinched slightly. Sweat rolled into eyes during the prayer song. One girl's twin ribbons loosened slowly in the hot wind. Assembly ended. But PT Sir didn't move. He stood there with crossed arms, watching silently. And then, without saying anything, he pointed toward the playground track. That single gesture could make an entire line groan together. Warm-up laps began immediately. Canvas shoes scraped rough gravel in uneven rhythm. Dust rose around ankles. One child faked coughing while jogging slower behind everyone else. Sunlight burned brightly off the school's tin shed roof. A boy secretly removed his shoe to shake out tiny stones before quickly wearing it again. But PT Sir's whistle blew twice, and every child straightened instantly. Arms stretched awkwardly toward the sky, while sweaty shirts lifted from tired backs. Children struggled to touch their toes. Dust coated ankles during jumping exercises. One skinny child couldn't bend properly. Nearby classmates tried desperately not to laugh. Then suddenly, a belt buckle snapped loudly. Giggles escaped from the last row. PT Sir stopped walking. The entire field froze. "Hasna band karo." After that, nobody even breathed loudly. Children stared straight ahead with lips pressed tightly. One boy secretly drank water behind another student's back. PT Sir noticed immediately. Punishment began under the hottest corner of the ground. Hands raised high, face turning red, sweat dripping down cheeks. Ants crawling near white shoes. Nearby students avoided eye contact completely, because every child knew one truth. Tomorrow, it could be them. The rusty school bell rang for first period. Inside classrooms, ceiling fans had already started spinning, but PT continued. Sweat patches spread across white shirts like maps. One child with asthma struggled to breathe beside the neem tree. PT Sir walked slowly between lines like a military officer inspecting soldiers. Some children secretly wiped sweat using shirt collars. Others fought laughter during frog jump punishment. Dusty knees hit the ground again and again. And somehow, PT Sir's white shoes still stayed spotless. A relay baton rolled dangerously near the drain. 2 boys dived together before Sir could notice. One false start restarted the entire race. One child quietly untied shoelaces, pretending they had come loose. But PT Sir saw everything without saying a word. By noon, even breathing felt heavy. Girls used homework diaries as fans. Water bottle caps clicked open desperately. One child carefully poured tiny drops of water into another child's mouth. Because everybody knew the water break would end too quickly. And when water touched hot dust, that smell of wet earth felt better than summer vacation. Then came the march past, the most terrifying part. Rigid shoulders, straight backs, stiff arms. Left, 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 right, left. The sound echoed through empty classrooms, while children copied awkwardly in crooked rhythm. One child marched in the wrong direction and froze in embarrassment. Nearby kids hid smiles behind trembling lips. A football rolled slowly near the edge of the field. Every child looked at it. Every child wanted to stop drills and just play. But PT Sir's whistle interrupted every tiny distraction. Socks disappeared inside shoes during sprint practice. Children kept running awkwardly just to avoid punishment. Teachers watched calmly from balconies, sipping tea, while below, exhausted students collapsed onto dry grass for exactly 2 minutes of freedom. Steam rose from overheated shoulders. One child quietly checked the timetable, hoping PT was finally over. But then came the worst sentence of all. Extra rounds! The disappointment spread silently across hundreds of tired faces. Shoes pounded harder against dry ground. One child secretly walked behind the group. Then suddenly, PT Sir appeared beside him without warning. One sharp whistle later, the child was sprinting awkwardly while classmates stared sympathetically. By afternoon, shadows became shorter. Collars stuck tightly to sweaty necks. Children hid behind taller classmates to escape visibility. Even a cricket ball rolling from another class could distract the entire ground for 1 second. But PT Sir noticed every turning head. Push-up punishment began beside the basketball court. Rough concrete scraped trembling palms. One child tightened his face, trying not to cry publicly. Nearby students stared downward, pretending not to notice. Then finally, the school peon dragged a water hose across the ground. And suddenly, every child stared at flowing water like it was magic itself. For exactly 1 sip break, the entire school rushed towards steel taps together. Water splashed onto muddy shoes and white socks. Children wiped mouths with dirty sleeves. Some secretly poured water over burning foreheads. Then the whistle blew again. Relief ended instantly. For 1 brief second, the smell of wet earth cooled the playground. Then drills started again. Chest out! Tiny shoulders stiffened unnaturally. One child's shorts slipped during high-knee marching. Laughter exploded for 1 dangerous second. Then PT Sir slowly removed his sunglasses. Silence returned immediately. Terrifying silence. From the ground, children stared toward classroom windows, toward spinning ceiling fans, toward shade, toward freedom itself. Some pretended stomach pain. Some begged silently with their eyes, but PT Sir simply pointed toward the medical room, and the acting ended immediately. By now, The white uniforms had turned pale brown with dust. One girl carefully hid torn shoe stitching with the angle of her foot. PT Sir stopped directly in front of her. Her fingers tightened around the water bottle. Then suddenly, he walked away, and relief spread across her face like rain after summer heat. The final running drill began. Children dragged feet heavily while breathing loudly. Pencil boxes fell, pencils scattered across dusty ground. One child stopped midway to collect them frantically, while PT Sir shouted from far away. Then, finally, one relay group collapsed, laughing onto grass. White shirts stuck completely to sweaty backs. One child fanned himself rapidly using a PT notebook. And then, the lunch bell rang. For a moment, the entire school became human again. Belts loosened, collars opened. Children exploded into corridor chaos. Steel lunchboxes opened with metallic clicks under shady corridors. The smell of lemon rice and pickle filled the humid air. Children removed shoes and rubbed aching heels. Deep sock marks stayed pressed into sweaty skin. Punishment stories slowly became jokes. Someone copied PT Sir's walking style, and suddenly the corridor burst into laughter. Inside classrooms, ceiling fans sounded heavenly after the playground heat. Legs still trembled beneath benches. Sore shoulders were massaged secretly under desks. Chalk squeaked endlessly across blackboards while exhausted eyes stared blankly. Dust particles floated beautifully through sunlight entering classroom windows. One boy quietly checked if his white shoes had survived the day. The cracked sole looked worse now. Outside, distant whistles from junior classes floated through the afternoon breeze. And somehow, even the punishments had already become memories. Then the final school bell rang, and suddenly the whole school came alive. Children dragged heavy feet toward the cycle stand. White uniforms fully wrinkled. Shoes loose, socks dirty. Bicycle pedals creaked slowly on the ride home. Evening sunlight glowed orange on scratched water bottles. At home, mothers noticed dirty socks immediately. Children quietly hid muddy shoes behind buckets. Aaj fir piti tha? Without speaking much, tired children simply nodded while rubbing sore calves. White shoes soaked inside detergent water near bathroom drains. Dirty water slowly turned grey around floating shoelaces. Homework stayed unopened. Ceiling fans hummed softly above tired bodies stretched across cool mosaic floors. Somewhere far away, another school whistle echoed faintly into the evening. Children stared silently toward drying PT uniforms near windows. Fingers traced fresh scratches on dusty knees. Mothers folded washed socks carefully beside beds, and before sleeping, the alarm clock was reset once again. Because in every Indian 90s childhood, PT period always came back the next morning. And under one dim yellow tube light, those polished white shoes waited silently near the door again.